my name is Sean Havens, and in this video I want to go over final expense and actually how it works and why somebody may want to get final expense. I did a previous video talking about the difference in final expense and life insurance. Basically they're the same thing, but if you want to go a little in depth, you can go back to that video and go ahead and listen to that. So there's four main reasons why somebody would want to get final expense, right, as opposed to life insurance, or just, buying life insurance just to buy life insurance. Everybody buys life insurance for a specific purpose, okay, for a concept, something that's going to do for them. So again, there's one of four things that's going to happen with life insurance, with the death benefit or proceeds of a life insurance policy. So the first one is pretty simple. This is how it's sold most of the time, is funeral and burial expenses. So they can get like a prepaid funeral planning program with a cemetery, things like that, and they have to pay dollar for dollar on that. And usually at the end, or if somebody passes during payments, then they have a balloon payment and they have to pay the whole amount at the same time, or they continue their payment. So it's not as efficient, I think, as what a life insurance will do or a final expense plan will do. So it'll go up to maybe anywhere from $2,000 to $40,000. So funeral burial, that's going to go ahead and take care. You could pay the payment for maybe 2 or 3 months and end up they get the whole amount. Okay, so if it's $10,000, $20,000, as long as it's a level benefit, they get the whole amount. So funeral, burial, if they don't have anything set up, this is a great way to do it. Obviously, the sooner they get it, the cheaper it is, and it doesn't go up. It does build cash value if you do a final expense whole life plan. Okay, you can do a level plan, or if they do have some health issues, then you can do a graded plan, which usually takes about 2 years to kick in the full benefit. And it's usually like 110% and then 120% the first and second year. So funeral and burial expenses. Lost income is a big one that a lot of agents don't talk about. You have to talk about this. So whether you're doing life insurance or final expense, this is for like retirees that are on Social Security. I'm going to go over a detailed explanation of how this works. But if you're not talking about this, make sure that you talk about lost income. This could really mess somebody up. And if you don't talk about it, they may think they don't need life insurance or final expense, but if you don't explain it to them the right way, it may be on you as to why they don't get it. Okay, so I'll explain that in a minute. Legacy or gift. Let's say somebody has $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 sitting in a bank account, in a savings account, and they want to give that to a grandchild, or maybe 3 or 4 or 10 grandchildren, right? So you can immediately increase that amount and have a tax-free benefit doing it with final expense. So they leave that behind as a legacy or as a gift, maybe $10,000 a piece, or do a single premium final expense plan, which is gonna, maybe they put in $20,000 and they'll get $30,000. So that's a $10,000 tax-free death benefit right away. Okay, there's no investment like that out there, and that's tax-free. So if the money's just gonna sit there, you might as well throw it into something as far as the legacy goes, or maybe they haven't thought about it. But during the appointment process, they're talking about little Susie for the whole appointment, and a lot of experiences and things, or maybe they watch little Susie, and you mentioned, hey, what if you could put aside a $10,000 benefit for Susie to buy her first house, or start a family, or go to college, or whatever it is. So things like that. Again, it's why. Why do people buy things? It's because what it's going to do for them. The benefit that it's going to bring to them, not the features. It's not the $10,000, it's what the $10,000 is going to do for that person. Very important that you go over the benefit of, that's what legacy is. That's what a gift is, okay? Now, another one, getting benefits back from work, okay? This is a big deal, and I talk to people about this all the time, okay? I'm out in Las Vegas, and we have a lot of casino employees, and what happens is they leave their job and they have maybe $10,000 or $50,000 from the union or something that they give them for life insurance. Well, when they leave, they lose their health insurance, they lose their life insurance, they lose the benefit package that they have from their employer. And that's a lot of different employers that do that. That's really most of them, right? So to get their benefits back and to have something like a final expense plan that they maybe didn't plan for, because usually people say, hey, I got it through work, I'm not going to worry about it. But when you retire, you turn 65, go on Medicare, now it's time to worry about it, right? So if you didn't plan before, or they didn't plan before, they got to make sure that they have something to take care of that, because it's getting up there. You know, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 cost for funeral burial expenses. Okay, so or to make up for lost income that they had planned with their benefits from work for their life insurance. Okay, so that's a big one. If they can qualify for benefits and get those benefits back that they have from work that they paid in for years and years, how would that be? Would that be a benefit to you? Okay, how would you feel if you can get those benefits back? Things like that. Well, that's what we do. That's what you can do with final expense. Even if they have some medical conditions, you can still get something like that done for them, anywhere from $2,000 to $40,000. Okay, so these are the main 4 areas. If you're doing final expense, you're talking about final expense, don't just say, do you want life insurance, or how about final expense? They probably don't even know what final expense is, right? It's just our slang, it's our term for life insurance. And it really is breaking down, you know, to a smaller amount and easy issue, right? So make sure you're talking about one of these areas if you're selling final expense, so that you can know why they need this or that, okay, or what's important to them. And that's what drives us into one of these areas. So it's like talking about insurance and going different directions so that they can attach onto something. Once they start asking questions, their eyes get big, body language, you know that you hit a nerve, and that's where you go, okay? And you're going to take care of that problem for them. All right, so lost income. I want to go over this with you because this is a big thing. It's how I made a lot of money and helped a lot of people out with lost income. So let's say, for example, a lot of seniors now are living off of Social Security, a good amount of them, okay? So I'm going to say that Mr. is getting $1,500 for Social Security, Mrs. is getting $1,800. I want to do that because if I have the Mr. make more, sometimes I get, why does Mr. make more? So Mrs. is making more, okay? So $1,500 in Social Security, $1,800 Social Security for Mrs. That means that together they're getting $3,300, okay? So their expenses per month are $2,500. So right now, I mean, they're not living great, right? But they're comfortable with $800, and that's what they're used to. So now what happens when Mr. dies? Okay, what happens to his Social Security? Well, you may know, but if you break it down, they may not know, or you may not have broken it down this way to see why it's so important to talk about this. Okay, so what happens here? Well, they lose the lower of the 2 Social Security. Okay, so if Mrs. passed first, he would get the $1,800. But in this case, that Mrs. keeps her $1,800, but loses $1,500 in income, right? So now we have expenses at $800, but now we only have an $1,800 income. Now, do you think that just because Mr. died, that these expenses are going to be cut in half? No, right? You're only going to save maybe on some food and things like that, but usually the expenses stay about the same. So here's the problem. So now we still have $2,500 in expenses, right? But now we only have $1,800 in income. Okay, so now what happens? Mrs. has a negative $700 a month coming in. Right? Now what? Do they have savings? If so, they're going to run through it. Do they have to sell the house right away? That's not a good plan either, right? So you ask them, what's going to happen? What's going to happen if Mrs. only has negative $700 coming in? What do you have in place for that? What's the plan? Are you okay with that? Does that concern you? Okay, so it's always important to make sure, because the husband's usually the protector, and and things like that. So they'll have a little bit of emotion behind that, making sure that his wife's going to be taken care of, right? Or vice versa. So we want to make sure that we go through that and they understand. So negative 700. Now what we can do is we can utilize this to do a life insurance or a final expense plan for, let's say it's this times 12. Okay, so now we have at least 12, so we have 8,400. Okay, that's just the negative. But if we want to make up for the loss of income, now we have 1,500 times 12 is what? We got 18,000. Okay, So now we have two $18,000 final expense policies that we can do to make up for 12 months. What is 12 months going to do for them? Well, now they don't have to sell right away. Maybe it's a down market and they don't want to sell their house right away. Maybe they need to make other arrangements. Maybe somebody needs to move in. They need to move in with somebody else. All these different things, but there's a grieving process too. Okay? What about if they don't have final expense set up as far as funeral burial? All those things are a factor. So this is just lost income. So you have two policies, one on Mr., one on Mrs., because they're gonna be in a situation where $1,800 they're gonna lose or $1,500 they're gonna lose for either one of them. So you have an $18,000 policy on each of them for the other to make sure that that lost income is taken care of for at least a year. You got to ask what they're comfortable with though. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year, maybe it's a year and a half, maybe it's 2 years, right? So whatever they're comfortable with, it's their number, not yours. Ask them what they're comfortable with and do that. Because at that point, they're involved, they're engaged, and they're telling you what is best for them and what they need, okay? But at the least, for a year, you have two $18,000 final expense plans. It helps them, it helps you, and if you didn't go over this, they probably don't know it, you're out the door, you didn't make a sale because they don't want another life insurance policy, right? So, concept, make sure you're asking the right question, make sure you're going through it, you're explaining it this way, you're getting them involved, you're bringing them along with you, asking questions and getting them to see what you see, okay? So that ultimately they're making the choice, not you trying to sell, it's you serving, you're helping a gap that they have. Okay, so there's your final expense. That's why somebody would buy, and that's why we want to make sure that we talk about it. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.